keynote speaker today, and that is Mr. Emmanuel Awumi. He is the car care consultant, a startup business product development analyst, and the CEO of Cecil Ventures. He is a product of University of Mines and Technology in Takwa and an award-winning professional in automobile engineering from the City and Guilds of London Institute. He holds a bachelor degree in marketing, a certificate in administration and management from the Ghana Institute of Management and Public Policy. He is also a member of the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport of Ghana. As an entrepreneur, he successfully managed a cashless startup business that evolved from 2 decades of practical entrepreneurial experiences. He lost his successful business in the 8th year of its inception and then revived it from bankruptcy to solvency. That's amazing. Emmanuel, yeah. I'm glad that's included in this bio. Typically, we only say all the successes, but running a business is hard. And this is going to be an inspirational exchange. Emmanuel's vast, in-depth knowledge and experience acquired through his entrepreneurial journey then led him to initiate Cecil's social support system in entrepreneurship, a youth mindset transformational-oriented initiative. This is a program tailored to train and mentor youth startup entrepreneurs, facilitate entrepreneurship workshop, and provide charity services to the blind and the aged in remote villages of the countryside. Emmanuel has served as a career counselor for Enactus and MTN HR Focused Business Challenge Program. He also recently won 3 awards in 2019 as Ghana Customer Service Excellence Award. Please give a warm welcome to Emmanuel.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's actually a great honor to find myself on the stage. How I got here, I didn't know. Those who sat to decide for me being here, I don't know any of them. But then this tells of what your footsteps can do to you. In terms of publicity, your heartless felt in trying to help the youth, selflessness, and the effective use of social media that led to my works to have been discovered by a group who sat down probably and decided that I should be here. I never knew this was going to be possible. And I think I want to thank the management, the board, of JA Africa for giving me this honor. Let's give it up to them. And I want to also acknowledge the performance of our youth. I was so much impressed with their delivery yesterday. My only worry and pain is that we have such great potentials in Africa, and we don't tend to tap them and help them to become industrialists. I am suggesting that our government should have a ministry for industrialization focusing on local industry development, where this should be a center where they should come and tap such great potential in these young ones, finance them, support them, and by entrenching some of these industries, Africa will be able to eliminate poverty and reduce unemployment, if not eliminate it. You can testify with me what they did here yesterday. How can we leave some of these things to get rocked? I tend to say that sometimes Africa, we have our own problem. We don't tend to place value on ourselves because the potentials we saw yesterday can be found and seen anywhere in Europe, but they place value on them. They nurture them. They groom them. What are we doing to these young ones to support them to become great? J Africa and Co. are doing their best to nurture these ones. Put them out there. Who sustains them into the future so that Africa can be self-reliant and be able to deliver itself. I think I'll just cut it here and go straight to my speech. Else I'm so passionate about the youth of Africa and I might speak and will not stop. And so I will say good evening once again, and Mr. Chairman, diplomats, foreign dignitaries, J Africa Worldwide, regional and country representatives, invited guests, volunteers, coaches, teachers, students, and ladies and gentlemen. I deem it an honor to have been invited to share my story on J Africa Company of the Year competition awards dinner, which coincidentally fall within the centenary celebration of J Africa. This is actually a landmark for sharing my story. And I wish to celebrate and honor the founding fathers of J Africa, the president of J Africa Worldwide, the board members, the regional president, CEO, Madam Elizabeth Bentley, volunteers, staff, and students. I really want to say Madam Elizabeth Bentley, in my opinion, is a visionary. And if it were to be in church, I would have referred to her as a prophetess. Because I still have been battling with how she discovered the relevance of my story and ideologies in relation to this year's theme for J Africa Company of the Year competition. Activating distractors. A story born out of the odds in our society by going against the status quo of certain educational and job types for over 30 years. A story that is full of successes and failures, bad and good decisions, pains and gains, and have several lessons to be learned. So the youth, follow my story carefully, and you don't make some of the mistakes I made, and be able to progress faster than I did. A story that intends to change the narrative of stigmatizing persons, graduates with skilled jobs working within the informal sector. A story that intends to bridge the gap between the informal sector and the corporate world. A story that seeks to avail information to the youth and startup entrepreneurs as a catalyst towards their economic emancipation. And a story that seeks to emphasize on hybrid business model as a form of corporate social responsibility towards the human capacity development of the African youth. And this hybrid business concept I call the Ubuntu business model. Ubuntu, however, is a South African word translated as having compassion and humanity towards others. A lecturer at the School of Communication Studies, University of Ghana, and currently a doctoral candidate, School of Journalism and Communication, University of Oregon, USA, Mr. Eric Kwame Adai, conducted an interview in connection to the Ubuntu business concept. And I quote, Emmanuel, you are convinced that the ultimate purpose of business goes beyond financial profits for investors. I am grateful to you for doing business with a deep sense of Ubuntu-inspired conscience, unquote. This is the kind of business concept that strives on humanity and compassion of an individual and a business entity. It is an incubating system designed to effectively and efficiently manage and utilize an otherwise untapped human capital of resource persons to the advantage of the human capacity development of the African youth and startup entrepreneurs, whose need is strategic, timely, and critical information to help them achieve their maximum potentials in order to contribute in eliminating, if not reduce, unemployment and poverty in Africa. The unemployment rate in Africa, however, stands at 34.9% according to ILO, of which the youth forms the majority. We cannot therefore allow potentials and possibilities to surround us whilst wallowing in poverty and unemployment for the mere reason of hailing societal stigmatization, credential appellation, status magnanimity at the expense of African economic emancipation. Now my story. I have always stood against status quo all my life. And I did that to be able to break against the status quo, to prove to our society, especially the African society, of the kind of stigma that has been associated to technical vocational education and then graduates working within the informal sector. And that is depriving us from development. And I have been a victim of such stigmatization. But I broke through, and that is what I want to share for the young ones to hear, and not to allow the stigma that is in our society to deprive them from achieving their goals. My story covers 5 major pillars of my life: the formative stage, the transformative stage, the transition stage, the experience stage, and the impactful stage for which I'm here. My formative stage. As a child at 3, fairness and justice was what I discovered about myself. This manifested one morning when my mom called a photographer to take a family picture of us. After she had taken her picture with her handbag, I requested for the same handbag to take a picture as well. And she said, "A boy doesn't take a picture with a lady's handbag." And imagine my reaction. What is good for the goose is good for the gander. So she had no choice to give me that bag to take the picture. I think you can see that on the screen. So similarly, when I was of age to go to school, I was told going to school was good and would make me a great person. So I noted that. When the time therefore came for me to go to school at the age of 5, they got me ready and we went. I was hurried up directed to a classroom where I was expecting my caretaker to stay in class with me. To my amazement, she left and headed home. Unconsciously, I saw myself run out of the classroom and headed home as well. My reason was, if you said school was good and you took me to school, you should stay with me in school. This actually took a whole year for my parents to convince me to go back to school. Now, in our midst, the said woman who some 48 years ago I struggled with to have the handbag because of fairness, which I believe in and just. She is here in our midst and she's 81. Mrs. Awumi, if you are here, please. She's way back right there with her gray hair. I decided to use this day to honor her for making it possible for me to be here today. And you will see her bravery in a decision she took, for which it has made me possible to come this far in life. So, in my secondary education, however, it was truncated at Form 2, which I decided to truncate it. I decided to pursue a technical education due to my growing interest in cars when I was young, a decision my dad objected to, with the explanation that I could still pursue an engineering program at the university and don't necessarily need to go through the technical school. I sensed the threat of societal stigma staring at him for persons pursuing technical and vocational education in our society as academic deficient. And that thing happens strongly here. Most people will not really want their wards to go to the technical or vocational school. And that was one stigma that stood, and I decided to stand against it. My mom, however, intervened and reminded my dad about my passion in cars, so he should allow me to do that. He then eventually allowed me to pursue that. Upon graduating from the technical school, I won a bronze medal award from the City and Coast of London Institute for being the first among the best 25 technical students in Ghana in 1987. I wonder how many of us, especially the youth, were born around that time. Now, this got my parents excited and my dream come true. I also gained admission to pursue an advanced automobile engineering program at the University of Mines and Technology, Takwa. However, the reality of life dawned on me when I lost my dad 2 weeks into writing my final exams. But I managed to sail through. Now, my transition stage. Taking up my national service, I decided to join the army upon completion. Whilst in wait for recruitment, I took up a job for internship. Whilst working as an intern, I discovered I function best with innovation and creativity and love to be independent. That discovery led me to decline an invitation for recruitment into the Ghana Navy. This was because I felt I would be restricted in the military and can only operate under command and cannot easily pursue my dream objectives. I therefore wrote several applications for employment in the automobile industry, but none came out successful. I therefore decided to challenge the status quo of vehicle maintenance in Ghana, where maintenance of vehicles were virtually limited to mechanical maintenance, electronics maintenance, transmission works, body works and spraying, car wash. And as a trained automobile technician equipped with my ideals and ideologies of thinking outside the box, I started a research program into the constituent and compositions of automobiles and their maintenance. The outcome of this research led me to discover 3 major characteristics of the automobile, which are the internal unit, the mechanical unit, and the exterior unit. However, it was only the mechanical unit that received most attention for maintenance in our jurisdiction. Hence, I came up with an idea of maintaining the interior and exterior for automobiles, that is into detailing. However, around the year 2000, internet connectivity was a challenge, hence access to international industry experts and product information was scarce, but I managed to source some products from abroad to start the business. Business, however, my experience stage. Business, however, began in earnest with the challenges of getting customers to appreciate a new concept in a new environment where car wash was the norm. I therefore needed to provide something unique value proposition that will attract and also form a strong alternative differentiation to the existing product, car wash. And car wash, in African sense, belongs to the informal sector. And this is a sector that you hardly find a graduate wanting to work in there. But there are great potentials if you get in there and research. I ventured into that sector. I therefore came up with a business concept that will allow me to go to customers' location, wash and detail their cars. That's mobile detailing service. Because I didn't have the money to rent a space, I could only design a system that will be convenient for me within that space of time. So I don't sit to say there is no money to be able to start something. I initiated it gradually and grew it up. This was a laudable idea, but was going to come with marketing and product challenges. But a strategic marketing and product development approach through targeting, I managed to carve a niche market for my services. One of my target audience was the corporate workers, whom I believe will best understand the concept and help in its publicity through word of mouth commendation. I therefore approached Calbank, who bought into the concept and offered me a space within their premises. But with the clause that I only wash and detail staff and company vehicles. I really accepted the offer, knowing someone has at least recognized the value in what I'm doing. And not too long, another organization, Senate, bought into the concept and arranged for its senior staff vehicles to be detailed periodically. But also with the clause that I get my own workstation. Well, I was challenged, and by that I have to work out hard, raise some money and rent a space, and move to my new location. And interestingly, when I moved there, a radical Calvin followed me up. This gave me a lot of encouragement and motivation that the initiative that I took was catching up, and it motivated me to move on and make sure I get it done well. Not too long, I started working on diplomat vehicle, including that of the US Embassy. Then it went up for a stage where an aircraft that landed in Ghana, I was approached to detail the interior of the aircraft. This was a massive and really boosted my morale and further encouraged me in the operation. And trust you me, to crown it all, I was taken to the Osu Castle to detail ex-President Kufuor's official vehicle. A job I did with excellence to the admiration of protocol officials. This led to my recommendation to state protocol for detailing presidential ceremonial vehicles I have done for over a decade now. When it's Independence Day, the vehicle our president stands in to wave at us and move around those ceremonial vehicles. Today is my first time of disclosing this. I have been doing this on the background, and that has been my work. So the value of technical education, this is how far it can go. But look at this, which society stigmatizes. The potential in technical vocational education. We need skills, not just grades, to develop Africa. And this is how far technical education, which I pursued and stood against the status quo, this is how far it went, to work across different administrations. And how could this happen? This can happen through God's favor, excellence, credibility, and professionalism. So the young ones learn this. Credibility can represent a cash for you. It can open doors. Now, this experience entrenched my belief and ideals in thinking outside the box by challenging the status quo. It also went further to strengthen my belief system in technical and vocational skills, which I strongly believe is the way to go in creating more job opportunities to reduce, if not eliminate, unemployment in Africa. In the space of 8 years, I had established 5 branches with over 50 workers who were all skill trained on the job and were mostly school dropouts, junior and high school leavers. School dropout and junior and high school leavers because no graduate will want to venture into a car wash business in Ghana, and I believe in Africa for that matter. How will you, a graduate, want to work? You'll be stigmatized and you run off. It's a very painful experience, but I did. Well, this is where yesterday Mr. Yabua told us we should fall in love with failure. And this is where I fell in love with failure, but we divorced in about 4 years. So this success, however, was short-lived as a result of a breach of contract by a successful businessman whose property I decided to rent for the branch. We came into a verbal agreement of a rent charge of 300 Ghana cedis per month for 2 years. Based on that projection, I went for a bank added to my internally generated funds and invested close to 40,000 Ghana cedis on the property around 2008. Work started in earnest until one afternoon I received a message to meet my landlord, the said business, in his office for us to document the agreement after I have stayed on the property for a little over a year. A document was handed over to me in his office to sign, only to realize that the figures in the document didn't correspond with what we verbally had agreed upon, which was 300 Ghana cedis per month for 2 years, and it has changed from 300 Ghana cedis to $500 per month for 2 years. If you know the conversion in Ghana cedis to dollars, you pay 300 Ghana cedis in Ghana cedis, and your landlord tells you you are paying $500. When you do the calculation, you understand. It was a big blow. I immediately drew his attention to the fact that this was a typographical error, I believe, but he told me it wasn't a typo. It was real figures he was mentioning. I protested, but none of this could cause him to change his mind. He requested for a cash down payment, or I fold that, and pay for the number of months I have stayed on the property. My jaw dropped. I felt as though I was watching a movie. I saw the start and end of my entrepreneurial journey right inside before his desk. He gave me 3 months to settle the amount or for the number of months I spent on the property and fold that. I had choice here than to fold up us looking for money to settle the remaining balance for the period I occupied the property. I had already taken 2 bank facilities, which frankly being served and therefore cannot go in for another. This situation led me to close 4 of my 5 branches down, and the 5th one that was left has nothing to write home about. I couldn't even pay salaries. I lost virtually all my workers. I lost my customers. I had, at this point, lost my business. I mean everything, including my marriage. I went down back to ground zero. I sold about 3 cars to settle various debts and restore to trotro. In Ghana, when we say trotro, that is the cheapest transport you can have. Life was terrible. It was quite challenging to me. Life became unbearable as the days went by. The banks also started calling me for their money. I had at this point have to make an introspection of my life and business and take certain drastic decisions. The first was to find an investor to buy the only property I had left, my business, to settle my debts and the banks, and to leave the rest to chance. And the only thing I had left was my brand that you can see on my chest here, Cecil. And that tells you the importance of branding. It is this brand name, just the name, not any physical asset, that I leverage on to come back on my feet. And so, to the young ones, as you develop your businesses, make sure branding becomes key. And branding is not just the name, and it's not just the symbol, but it encompasses your character, your attitude, your commitment, the excellence of your work, and all that you do encompasses to make your brand a solid one. And so that was my key. Without the brand, I wouldn't have been here today. And I so much cherish this brand, Cecil. But later, now, the second decision I had to take, however, was to go back to school, to the university, to upgrade my knowledge and management skills to be able to put myself up again. I managed to find an investor, but later had a conviction not to sell off the entire business, but to keep 30% to hold onto the brand, due to the will it has and can be leveraged upon should things turn around. I, however, made a partnership agreement to be subject to 1-year renewal. The partnership, however, took some time to get started as a result of financial constraint from the investor. Now, the young one, listen, I did a partnership agreement for renewal for 1 year because I learned my lesson from the first one. The first one was a verbal agreement. Don't go take a verbal agreement and invest your money. Make sure that it is documented. because I made a mistake not to allow the documentation to take place before I made an investment onto the property that led to my downfall. And so always make sure when you're going into any partnership agreement, let documentation be done. So I learned my lesson, and this time around, I made sure there was a documentation, which saved me as well. Now, listen to what happened. The partnership, however, took some time to get started as a result of constraints from the investor. When it eventually started, it was dead on arrival due to some management style and practices that contradicted the values and principles of the Cecil brand. This led to the abrogation of the partnership agreement after 1 year of operation. And about the same time, I secured admission to GIMPA to pursue a BSc program in marketing. So this is where it is. Society stigmatized technical education, but I want to prove society wrong again, that it is not academic deficient people who go to technical school. So I have to go to the university to pursue a marketing program so I can be a dual personality to academia and technical skill. So this will disprove that idea that it is only those who are not academically efficient who goes to technical vocational school.
I needed money, serious money, to be able to further my education. So I therefore started walking to homes and offices of some customers to clean and detail their cars, just as to keep up and make some money to finance my education. I remember once at a time at lectures, I felt thirsty for water and couldn't buy myself even a sachet of pure water until I got home. This was because what I had on me was on strict budget for transport back home and back into town the next day to continue my hustle. I was really living by the hour. I lived in the situation for 4 years and sometimes didn't know where my next meal was going to come from. Friends were nowhere to be found, and those I found seems to be crying louder than I did. I had to literally reinvent my life by relocating out of sight from many friends. This was because I didn't want to entertain sympathy, which is a destructive tool in the moment of distress. It can weaken your ability to withstand emotional pressure. I hustled this way until I graduated and had an opportunity to travel for further training in car care. I came back and I revived Cecil, and it's been 7 years and counting. The impacting stage. Having had all these entrepreneurial and life transforming experiences, I found it expedient to use my story to contribute in helping shape, guide, and mentor the youth and startup entrepreneurs in walking their entrepreneurial journey. Hence the initiative, Cecil Social Support System in Entrepreneurship, 4SE. This is a youth mindset transformational initiative tailored to impact and mentor the youth and startup entrepreneurs within the entrepreneurial ecosystem. This led to the Ubuntu business model, a business model that suffices on compassion and humanity by combining economic enterprise and social enterprise. So, for instance, it is an expensive venture to put up a social enterprise event with seasoned speakers, resource persons, industry experts, etc. to speak and mentor the youth and startup entrepreneurs. Some business centers, however, per their nature, brings together a pool of resource persons with a bank of knowledge, wisdom, and information under one roof at any point in time. A typical example of this is the hospitality industry, hotels, and similar related industries. The hotels, for instance, command a wide range of high-profile resource persons across industry to their facility, with loads of information, knowledge under their sleeves, human capital that can be tapped into the form of giving back to society, CSR. It is projected that a conference room facility or dedicated garden space by a hotel could be made available for human capacity development purposes, especially targeting the youth and startup entrepreneurs. And while these resource persons pass through these hotels with a pre-arranged request to them on arrival to spend 10 minutes of their time with the youth in building their capacity as a way of giving back to society, most of them, if not all, would love to spend such a time speaking and mentoring the youth and startup entrepreneurs who will be seated in these halls for free. This business model has been piloted at Cecil Ventures, which has similar characteristics of harnessing great resource persons coming under one roof as an incubator for a period of time whilst waiting for an hour or more for their services to be rendered to them. And it worked. And apparently, most of the seasoned personalities approached to speak to these young ones were more than excited to spend time in support of developing the capacity of the youth and startup entrepreneurs through mentorship as a way of giving back to society. Anyway, the details to this concept can, however, be discussed, re-engineered, and adopted for implementation by interest groups to serve as a strategic information center for the youth and startup human capacity development that can be attached to certain business types that attract such pool of professionals under one roof. In conclusion, however, the Cecil Social Support System also embarks on a yearly charity program called the Charity Trip, in which it targets very remote villages across the countryside to provide charity services to the aged widows, children, and the blind. All the aforementioned projects have been solely financed through proceeds from Cecil Ventures without any external fund support, defining the Ubuntu business model. I thank you so much for your attention.
Have an intimate relationship with failure. I think big pig if you want to say.